Hello, folks of the nation.
What?
This is
All right, folks of the nation.
our video on the Wailing, and before we go into it, I have to do a little plug, because this is my second time seeing it, and the first time I saw it was with the boys at Truly Daebak, the K-pop podcast that does mostly K-pop, but I got to appear and pick a topic, and I chose this movie which I hadn't seen, and we're not gonna hold any bars. Like, I think those two discussions are gonna be different enough that I don't think I'm gonna filter this at all just to make you guys see. I'm thinking about just like how this is gonna work. I'm just thinking about the nature of plugging and how it like works for our channel.
Oh, you're right, because we...
Yeah, but so basically, one of the members of the podcast, Andrew, has a certain background that lends to some very interesting interpretations on this movie. So that is my reasoning for you guys to actually go check out that. It hasn't been... It will be uploaded on Monday sometime. So I'll put a link in the description when it comes out.
Do you only talk about the film?
No. We also talk about K-pop stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's easy to find. Like, on the podcast, there's like very clear time codes and stuff. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, that's his other YouTube self that he does, the K-pop world.
Yeah, I'm sure most of the subscribers are actually from that. But anyway.
Well, yeah, our initial subscribers are mostly that,
yeah. So, this is my second time watching, and I have a very odd, very strange opinion.
My opinion also very strange.
Yeah. You can go first.
Alright, this is the only way I know how to put this right now. I'm noticing a trend in Korean cinema of how they structure their plot.
Sure.
And how they structure their narrative. That is something that I don't know how to describe yet. So it's hard for me to talk about it intelligently. But it has something to do with perfecting like the thriller, and like the way that information is revealed to you is very interesting to them. How they like keep you second guessing, or in some cases, in some other films, they outright lie to you.
In his opinion.
In my opinion, which I think is a little amoral. But Korean cinema, from what I've seen, seems like really interested in this on a very fundamental level. Yeah. That's how they just make their movies.
Especially the thriller films, because we haven't... I mean, obviously, some of the K-dramas, because that's just sappy, crappy stuff.
You know that, I mean, that's not completely irrelevant
that's
here.
True.
Because, like, the K-drama, is something that is kind of a culture shock to us. And, I mean, I don't know a lot about K-drama.
Actually.
But what I know... Oh, do you know a lot about...
Actually, now that you say it, it's... Yeah, the way they do twists is very similar to these movies. I mean, with these movies... They try to connect it with the previous plot. But with the other one, American movies do this thing where after the sweetest romance scene, there has to be a breakup. In K-dramas, and I'm not spoiling anything because I haven't actually seen one, but I've seen enough Korean music videos and I've heard enough about K-drama as a genre to know this. In K-dramas, it's like after the sweetest moment, someone always gets into a car crash or gets a terminal disease or like blinds themselves, and then some sort of sacrifice has to be made. So if you can consider like American romance movies to be like, oh, that's so sad, Korean dramas are meant to make you weep in its most superficial form.
Interesting.
Which I find the K-drama formula very, very, just very manipulative. But with Korean thrillers, it's very different.
Well, again, this is just... Okay, so the three films I have in mind here are...
Old Boy.
You already know what they are, because you know what I've seen.
Exactly.
Old Boy, The Handmaiden, and then this film.
Yeah, I think that's the only three that I can think of. Korean films that I haven't seen many Korean films at all.
This makes me like
I think Snowpiercer.
We sort of say in general like, oh yeah, we should see more of this director.
It's a different director,
or not director,
right?
Yeah, but like, or like we say in general like, oh, I want to see more of this kind of
country,
of this country, or this director, or this like style, or this time period, or something, right? I really want to see more more Korean film now.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, partly just because it correlates with something I'm interested in my own, figuring out what I want to do creatively, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, like, the way they structure their stuff, it bothers me in a very interesting way. I'm curious why that bothers me, because we've mentioned a few times where we watched a film called The Handmaiden that really, really got me annoyed with how they structured their story.
Mm-hmm.
And we had like a really intense discussion about it.
Mm-hmm. That was off camera, because that was way before.
This was before we were doing this, and like this film almost does kind of the same thing, but it doesn't really annoy me in the same way. But like still, I have odd feelings about it. And again, I have a just general. I'm not able to describe it very well right now, but I have a general feeling that it has to do with how they're manipulating the audience.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. How does that correlate with what you're gonna say?
I can't say anything about my experience with this viewing, until we get into spoilers.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did my best to say what I could without
because
spoiler as well. Yeah.
I mean, the experience of the film is still very good. I think the way,
I enjoyed it
because I do like to compare it with Hereditary, because some of the themes.
It's an interesting comparison.
Yeah. Yeah. Because. No, I think we have to wait until spoilers, because I feel like...
Yeah. You sort of set me up for... Okay, would it be a spoiler to say the general theme that this film is, or genre?
See, because I don't know about how you felt, but when I first watched it, I did not know what the theme was until like a solid 45 minutes in.
Okay.
Because it doesn't start off that way.
Yeah.
In fact, it starts off sort of luring you into believing it's a different genre.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's that. But I think the cinematography is wonderful.
Oh my god! I knew from the first shot. I'm like, this film's beautiful.
Uh-huh.
It's one of those beautiful films. Get ready.
Yeah, and this is again because I think the themes of Hereditary are also something that should be kept under wraps. So I'm sorry. I guess we'll do a spoiler talk for this, and then a spoiler warning for Hereditary as well, just to be safe. But what I can say is, you know how Hereditary's music choices bugged you?
I love the music in this as well.
Same.
The music from the very first... It's like, okay, it's usually in the first scene, like, they like to show off their cinematography and their music. Like, I mean, not always, but, like, it's a common choice, right? That's something they did in this film. And I was like, this film's gonna have good music. It's gonna have good cinematography.
Right.
Hell yeah.
But the thing is... A lot of people are praising the first shot of Hereditary, and I'm not going to say what it is. And if you remember, there's music that starts it off right away. But right from the beginning, we had a feeling like, why is this music there?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
While it's very effective for other people, it wasn't effective for us. But with this film, I thought that the use of silence for a lot of scenes was very interesting. And in my opinion, this movie does a very good job, and I said this in the podcast as well. It does a very good job setting you up for what kind of a horror film it is. There's a scene early on that you think that could easily go tropey, but it doesn't. Yeah, I'm particularly talking about like the jump scare aspect. There's a scene very early on that immediately sets you up to think like any generic director would go a certain way, but I feel like it actively avoids it. So that the rest of your mindset while watching the rest of the film is one that allows the true suspense and terror to kick in more than that fear of jump scare, especially if you're sensitive to it.
Yeah, it has to do with being very aware of the expectations of its audience.
Yeah.
And very aware of what you think you're watching. And trying to manipulate that. It seems like they're very consciously trying to be something that's a factor in this.
Right. And I think the first act of it is spotless. I don't think I have any complaints about the first act. Just because everything it sets up, it just feels like very honest filmmaking. But then we'll get to like the later half.
Were you not as thrilled by the later half?
I don't think this film makes any sense. Here's the thing. I'll try to put it. See, this is not a productive talk if we don't go into spoilers, so I want to keep it spoiler free because right now all I can do is like beat around the bush, and I don't think anybody wants to hear that. If we
That's
could
fair.
just go straight into spoilers.
Okay, that's fair.
Let's
And
try.
is there anything else we want to say?
Acting phenomenal.
Acting is great. Music's great.
Great child actor too.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the pacing overall is very good. I think the 2.5 hours went by very quickly for both. At least I was engaged the entire time.
I had a little bit of a rough time in the beginning.
Really? Okay.
But on getting on board. But I was never bored.
Hey.
Yeah.
No pun intended. It's really weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. We can go into that because I think I was not. This movie had me on board, whereas Hereditary did not have me on board at the beginning because it felt as slow as molasses. While this film, I feel like it's obviously. I mean, if you know Korean cinema, you know that with this type of thriller, the ending, well, it's a downward slope. It just gets more and more depressing and desperate. And I think the way it sets up the beginning, because I really felt the character of the town, and I didn't even know that the name of the movie is like the town it's like Gyeongsok or something. I'm butchering.
They show a sign at one point that has the name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I think the way things are happening, it made me just feel sorry for just these, regular people in a little town.
I have thoughts on that when we get into spoilers.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And it tugged my heartstrings right from the beginning. So for me, a lot of what makes this super effective in the horror sense is just how depressed it made me right within the first 30 minutes. So I think we have some different opinions about that.
Okay,
Yeah.
we should get into spoilers because that's where the meat of this is.
Is there anything about else? I don't think so.
When was this film made again?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2016.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's anything. I mean, go watch the Daybach podcast. Yeah.
Okay, let's get into spoilers.
Okay, spoilers.
Yeah. So you said you felt sorry for the characters?
Yeah.
No.
Why is that?
I think the beginning of the film set me up to be very confused by the characters. They're so dumb. And I sort of realize, in seeing the whole, that that's the point. That he made a mistake and that he's a very flawed protagonist.
Oh, I see. I know which. Yeah.
Yeah, however, they push that to the extent where it's almost absurd.
When he trashes the house and stuff.
Not so much of that, but even
really?
I think there was a few key things in the beginning that where they sort of paint him as sort of like the dumb cop.
Mm-hmm.
Where it seemed like a shallow, like, we're making you look dumb, and almost having no respect for the character itself. Like they're just almost showing, like, him being dumb and, like, he's dumb. Just, that's who he is.
That's
course,
not...
Yeah, but that's
yeah.
well, I mean, it's a few key things, because, I mean, it's interesting that, like one of the things where they're in the street and they're talking about the case, and part of the reason why it comes off as dumb is because they very clearly contrast what the characters know, and then they show the audience something, and because of the meta fact that it's a horror film, you know that it's important. However, the characters don't know it's important because for them this is real life and they're trying to think like real people, right?
Yeah.
Theoretically. So, like, one example is they're in the street, they're talking about the case, and then the woman who we learned later is the white ghost, is throwing rocks, and his initial reaction is, what the fuck are you doing? Go away.
Yeah.
Which, like, I guess that makes sense. But you understand that, wait a minute, people have been going crazy. People who have been going crazy are killing people people are going crazy, therefore are relevant to the case.
Mm.
They meet a crazy person and he tells her to fuck off. That's just illogical. Like, wait, are you that dumb? Why? Like, why are you that dumb?
That didn't bother me
and
at
that
all.
bothered me so much because, I mean, it would be one thing. I guess they just didn't successfully communicate the believability of these characters. And therefore, the experience I had from the get-go was something that was very detached, where I didn't feel sympathy for these characters.
Huh.
And instead, it more just came a game of, oh, this is what they're doing with the story, and a game of whodunit.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Because for me, it made sense because it just seemed like they were unprepared. It just seemed like it was a town where nothing like this ever happens.
Yeah, I can see that perspective. And that, I guess that more of that perspective came more clear as, like, his own, like, fear of his daughter dying was sort of, like, blinding him in
So you
his
didn't
rage.
see it at the beginning?
Like, it made sense once that, like, he had a reason to be angry and sort of rash, right?
Mm.
Like, him stopping the whole ceremony because his daughter is screaming.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And
I mean,
like,
duh, that's
literally,
human.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And they set that up well. But they kind of set that up, like, they set him up as, it's those opening moments that caused me to have that detachment that didn't give me that same heartfelt moment that I think they maybe intended instead, which is the experience that you got, right?
Yeah, because right from I thought the big opening was really strong because, like, literally he just wakes up and he looks, like, totally, like, unprepared for what's about to happen, and then all you hear is, like, someone died. And I think, and it's like the wife is, like, awake and is like, wait, what? Someone died? It's like they just don't, it's like death just doesn't happen. It feels like a town where everyone knows everybody.
Oh, that's not the impression I got, interestingly.
Oh, really?
I got the impression that he's a cop, and he's like, oh, someone died. Like, yeah, I gotta go.
No,
I gotta go,
no,
someone
no.
died. Yeah.
Well, it's also, from his face, I could tell that it was just so unreal for him. That he's processing. And from the way he sees the first corpse, I mean, you see the fear. And I think that's what communicated it to me. Immediately, you're like, oh, he's just never seen anything like it.
I see. Huh.
Yeah. And also from the way he like, I mean, yeah, see, what I said after my first watch is he seems like the bumbling idiot guy, but for some reason he's not. For me, he was in between. Like, he's no doubt not the smartest dude, and no doubt he has moments where, like, I think it actually supports it later because he believed in the supernatural stuff immediately, while his buddy cop was, like, hearing stuff about, like, witches, and he's like, psh, what, brushing it off at first. Because when he sees the white ghost for the first time, he immediately is like, wait, tell me more. And because of the way it was set up, he just seems like he could be not gullible. I don't like gullible has too negative of a connotation, but it is gullible that he could actually buy into the supernatural stuff.
I actually got the impression that he was, like, okay with it, but, like, not really into it.
Really?
It was more of, like, the wife who, like, honey, we're getting a shaman.
Well, no, the shaman part was definitely. I mean, he definitely had his doubts. That's exactly why he stopped the ceremony too, because like, I feel like if his belief was that strong, he would have kept at it regardless of what his daughter was doing. But, like, faith is one thing, but I guess we just had different experiences. Yeah. For me, the tragedy just struck from the very beginning. And I think if you're talking about the white ghost throwing rocks, I mean, okay, the first thing is, like, it turned out to be a dream, but they didn't really establish where the dream starts. So that's that's the part that's interesting, where they set it up to where, they go in the direction, like you were saying, they go in the direction that the horror expects to go, where it becomes supernatural, but then they disqualify that by saying it's a dream, and then they make that blurry, and then they actually confirm that it is supernatural, right? And then that leaves it for a long time very vague if it is supernatural. That's
That's a really cool part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the intention was that the white ghost was supposed to feel like a character that doesn't actually exist, because there was a long time where she did not appear.
Mm-hmm.
So because she was part of the dream, so we think that maybe she wasn't even a real character. I think that was the intention, but it didn't really come across that way. But even like within my logic, I feel like she's just throwing rocks. I don't think she was acting too crazy. I don't know. Maybe she just hates cops. It actually reminded me of like people who like hate American cops, and they're just kind of trolling them.
Well, I guess I think it would be hard to say that she's not important.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
It's where, specifically in that moment, this is, I mean, it was the most clear moment in me where I think I was the most annoyed, right? But, I mean, that's a weird way of saying it. But, like, because we as an audience member understand that she is important.
Oh, I didn't.
And, oh, really, no?
I thought she was just some witness or something. I didn't think she was important.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe like through her telling him about like, oh yeah, the woman killed everybody because she didn't agree to do the shaman thing. Maybe that made her important, but then she like kind of just disappeared without a trace, and then is gone for like at least 40 minutes in the movie. So I think her importance is meant to be revealed later. I didn't think she was important just from throwing rocks.
Well,
because the other thing is that
maybe another thing is that she's acting weird, therefore it's almost like they are communicating to the audience, but like the way they're communicating within each other to the characters doesn't make sense. It's like they're doing things for the sake of telling the audience and not telling the characters.
Really?
Instead of the characters discovering it for themselves. Like another moment is where the cop is at one of the murder scenes. And he looks over, and then the camera, and then I think the cop looks away, and then the camera sort of goes off somewhere else and shows that the demon is like staring down the house. That's a very clear case of them showing the audience something that the character hasn't realized yet.
Right.
Right. So it's like it's things like that.
I don't think that's something that only Korean thrillers do, though.
Well, no, not at all. It's not something that only they do, but like. I guess it's just I'm noticing a trend where they're very interested in manipulating information in this way that has to do with a disconnect between what the characters know and what the audience is sort of telling. In this film, near the end, something where because I was on board was because the main character was as confused as the audience as to who's right.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And I think that's the reason why I think the thriller aspect of it does work. Because they don't know, neither we know.
Yeah.
They breached that a few times, though.
I think I'm okay with it. I mean, again, I guess I'm just a different type of film viewer in that sense. And for me, I don't think this is like a case where the camera is cold and unsympathetic. I think it very much tries to portray the sympathy of the characters.
Oh yeah, I agree with you.
But I think, I don't know, it doesn't go that deep where like the third person moments where we see something that the characters don't really broke me. But you said it was near the first half were all those moments that really... What about the scene where like the Japanese woman was hanging on the cliff? Or like the whole part where we follow him?
Japanese woman hanging.
No, the Japanese man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in those moments, he's hanging on the cliff, and then he goes down and he starts crying, and then
this is where it gets interesting.
This is where it gets interesting because, like, in retrospect, you kind of realize that it doesn't really make sense that he would do that.
This is one of the reasons why I wanted to rewatch it immediately.
Because you didn't understand why he did that,
because,
right?
see, like it's one thing for the director to show some information or that the characters don't know. It's another thing to show things that are only aimed at the audience, like the Japanese man crying. Like you can, like I interpreted it the first time as like, yeah, this is just the director manipulating the audience.
You know what? I realize what they're trying to do here.
What?
I realize the narrative. Okay, so that is what it is.
You think so?
So this is a back forth narrative.
Mm-hmm.
It starts off, and then it sort of reaches a place where what you're supposed to believe is that Japanese man is the bad guy.
Yes.
They get the bad guy, they win.
Yes.
However, there's some ambiguity in there somehow. Wait, is he really the bad guy?
Mm-hmm.
Then it's revealed, oh wait, no, it's the white ghost. She is the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
And you think back, wait a minute, oh, that guy was crying earlier.
Yeah.
She must be right then. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, wait, oh.
No, there's no, I don't think so.
Yeah, well, I have evidence.
Okay. Oh,
I have evidence.
Okay.
You think I wouldn't have evidence? Here, look at my closet.
Hey,
There's nothing here.
Hey, there you go.
There's nothing.
There you go. Isn't there a fridge? I think it was a fridge.
I thought it was like a closet. I thought it was next to a fridge, and like he was showing him a closet.
Okay.
Yeah, that's actually another example where they sort of make him out to look like a crazy conspiracy theorist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway,
not so. I mean, it was so up in the air at that point. I think you're coming into to conclusions too quickly in the movie. For me, I was just so open. I'm like, oh, these characters are acting this way. There must be a reason for it. And then as the film went on, like I think for you tend to like come to a lot of conclusions very early on in the movie, which is like, oh, this is just like they're trying to like.
I guess it's
make them look dumb.
That is a way of saying it. Maybe a different way of saying it.
Do you think it's? I'm just trying to think whether it's really the film's fault, or maybe it's just the way you see it.
Well, it is the way I see it, and I think the reason of that is where our differences are different, is because you were invested in it where I wasn't. Where I was like thrilled by this story, but I do this very commonly with film too, but not all the time, right? Where I'm viewing it more as what are they telling me, rather than what's going on, if that makes sense.
Right.
Maybe a better way of saying that is what are they trying to say, and what are they trying to communicate to me right now? And then.
But the opening of the movie.
Yeah. Well, it becomes very apparent that they are telling you things, and if you think about it, they are telling you things that are lies. Actually, come to think of it, this is the exact same thing that
The Handmaiden?
The Handmaiden does.
What do you mean
but it's more subtle. Now that I sort of realize it.
Okay, what is your evidence? Could you talk about your evidence?
Yeah, okay, so... okay, why would he cry? There's no reason why he would cry, right?
I think...
So narratively, here's my reasoning. So here's what I think happened.
Okay.
The reason he's crying is, if you remember, there's a scene where they go to the church and they talk about, oh yeah, the Japanese man. I hear he's a scholar. I hear that he's someone who died recently. I think the Japanese man is actually human.
Okay.
The Japanese man and the demon, I think, are two separate characters.
Yes.
The demon is someone who came from the dead guy in the car.
Oh.
So there's the dead guy in the car, they have the fight with the dead guy in the car, and they have the fight with the demon. And then, so there's still some things that that take some piecing together.
I don't think the demon's the dead guy in the car.
And
I have evidence too, but you gotta finish yours first.
That, I mean, it's something where, like, the human side of him is coming out. He's not the demon, like, that's not the demon crying.
Right.
That is the human that the demon has possessed that is crying.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. So, however, the reason they show that is so that they can misdirect you to believe that this guy is innocent. Where, in truth, and that's sort of like where, like, they're really playing with, like, expectations, because, like, in truth, both are true. He is innocent, and he is guilty. But that's because you're not understanding exactly what's going on yet, because they haven't really told you. Yet, at the same time, they have told you, but they're giving you the information in a way where you can't possibly understand that yet.
Sure.
Yeah, like, another example is, they show you an example of the nest, and they show you, like, the little thing that hangs down in the very beginning, and like, he even looks up and, like, is about to touch it. It's like, they show you with music cues, it's like, this is important, even though you don't understand it.
But that's not just a Korean film thing. That's a thing that happens in all movies.
It does happen in all movies, but it sticks out in these movies because the 3 Korean films I've seen have all done it.
Yeah.
Like they all do it in similar ways, and that makes me just interested in like this formula, because it's like it has a very specific kind of flavor to it that it definitely exists in other narrative types and other forms of similar, but it's like they've really distilled this down to a very specific kind of narrative thing that just makes me feel weird.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Again, yeah, this is not something that I can really, retort against. This is just, a very strong opinion on narrative thing that definitely I just don't feel as strongly about. But
yeah, I mean, like it just, I get that it sounds like oh, they're doing this narrative thing that's wrong, but the reason I feel it's wrong is because like you're like when I feel like you have a sort of, it's in your best interest to treat your audience with respect.
yes.
And lying to your audience is not really treating them with respect. I don't think so. I think people enjoy being lied to. And it's sort of like it's a weird thing, right? Because it's the whole thing of how a mystery works.
Yeah.
You don't tell them who done it so that you can get excited about trying to figure it out yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's what this film is. It's a thriller, and it's thrilling because you don't know who done it yet.
Yeah.
And because you don't know the answer. And you haven't figured out the puzzle yet.
Mm-hmm.
But the way it does that and makes you feel excited is a type of manipulation that is hard for me to grapple with how that's morally like okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't feel lied to at all by these films, so I guess that's that. So you think the shaman and the demon are together?
Oh, totally, yeah.
So what is the crazy ritual scene?
That was the demon and the shaman pretending to go at it.
You think so?
Yeah. They were in cahoots the whole time.
I just don't believe that.
Oh, is that something that's uncertain for you? Because I am 100% sure that's what was going on. The last scene is basically confirmed that.
Well, yeah, but I just, see, that's the thing where, like, I feel like all the other things that the films does is treating the audience with respect, but the fact that they actually show what the shaman is doing at that scene, or what the Japanese man is doing in that scene.
You know how the shaman came off to me at first? And this is a very intentional choice on their part. As an oil salesman. Snake oil man.
Yeah.
He's dressed well. He asks for a fuck ton of money.
Yes.
The intention that they do that, it's not because that colors his character to make him interesting. It's because, we want you to think that he's an oil salesman, so that your expectation is wrong.
It's not just purely that.
What else is it, though?
Yeah, I think it also goes against the trope, because that's the point where I'm like, okay, if this character's just some, your typical medium, or your typical, like, ghost character, the person would communicate with something, has some ability that the other people don't. They usually, just because of how funny he is and how unexpected some of his remarks are, just like get the fucking soy sauce, I think all of that, like the way we see him come in with a shirt, like I actually never thought he looked like a snake oil salesman until you mentioned it. I thought it was all done to make him seem like, oh wait, this is not your typical movie medium or shaman or like voodoo person. Mm-hmm. This just seems like some regular old dude. Regular dude who's like, actually has a personality.
Okay.
Yeah, I never distrusted him. From the moment he walked in.
Yeah, I really distrusted him.
Really?
Yeah.
And I think when I talked to the other guys, I don't think anybody distrusted him at first. Yeah, it's definitely odd. I think, yeah, your experience is very interesting.
It is.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, exactly. So I just want to think of a way to justify the fact that they actually show the Japanese man during that duel scene. Because otherwise, obviously, they're only showing the Japanese man for the audience.
Well, they're doing something, right?
Yes.
They're acting out something.
Yes.
Um,
But why would they need to act out if no character in the movie is watching the Japanese man? Why do they have to act it out? He could just be doing it a totally fake ritual to like empty air.
well, something I noticed. Notice how the two rituals differ.
Yes.
One is a complete show. The other is he's just being a drum in his shack.
Yeah.
And one, I got the impression that whatever he was doing,
Mm-hmm.
and the logic that we don't understand, that is the spirit world,
Mm-hmm.
he was just doing whatever was necessary to do to complete the shindle that was happening. Where he was putting on the show so that they would believe it. With the drums and the fire and the dancing and the swords and the blood and the goats and the chickens.
Sure.
And all that. Yeah.
So the only intention of showing the Japanese men buying all the black chickens and stuff is aimed for the audience?
Actually, no. You know what it is?
What?
They were tormenting the girl.
You think both of them were tormenting the girl?
Yeah.
Actually,
that makes perfect sense.
But what was the picture on the Japanese man's? Because there was a picture of the dude in the car.
That was the devil.
I don't think the dude in the... Because it shows that near the end of the Japanese man's ritual was when the dude in the car started breathing. Because there was a clear moment where he just suddenly gained breath.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying is like the devil died, and then he's trying to prevent it from coming back? Because like, how do you explain the breathing
They
thing?
might have been...
That's the thing, like...
They might have been reviving the devil together. Like, okay, they're torturing the girl, and almost like empowering... It's like they were... this might have been what it is. Transferring... I don't know, this is just a guess, because they don't tell you. They leave it for you to figure out.
Mm-hmm. Well, in my opinion, they trust the audience will be invested enough, in which case you weren't.
Yeah, they trust... Yeah, they give you all these puzzle pieces.
They want you to figure
it out. Yeah, that is something I like about this, is that they trust... But then again, it's this weird disconnect where I get the sense that they're trusting their audience to be intelligent, to figure this stuff out, yet they manipulate them in the same way, that treating them not with respect.
But see, I don't think that's manipulation.
What do you mean?
Like, because the film, like, I feel like you're treating the showing someone that, like, you know, on the side of the screen that the characters don't know, on the same level as the whole showing the Japanese man crying. Like, you think that they're, like, the one and the same. They're both, like, the same degree of not giving your audience respect. Because I think there are different tiers.
I agree, there are different tiers, but they're one of the same issue that I think is what is hard for me to grapple with. Sorry, I sort of cut you off there. Yeah.
I feel like we should watch more like crappy horror films in the theater, because it feels like I
totally buy that this is
maybe
a
not even
subversion
crappy
of tropes.
Ones. Yeah, it's just not. I guess if you have such a strong stance, I don't want to like beat you down on that, but. Yeah, I guess it is mind-boggling to just really think of some of the simpler things as manipulation.
Well...
Because that's the joy of being an audience member. It is like... Yeah, seeing what the film does. And I think when I'm that immersed in it, I don't know, I guess my brain just doesn't pick it apart. Until there's a scene where the Japanese man is crying. For me, that is like, I agree, that is a sin. But because the rest of the film, I feel like, is so intelligently put together, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, it is.
Yeah, that I actually want to find a way to justify why the Japanese man is crying, why that information is important. You can say, yes, it is immoral to suddenly show the Japanese man's perspective, even though before that, we've been following the protagonist's perspective the entire time. And that I could buy into, because the moment they start showing the Japanese man on his own is when he, like, starts performing the ritual, and then after that, he, like, starts running away and stuff.
I guess the more I think about it, the way I'm trying to frame sort of like the impression of how they're trying to explain better the experience, what experience this of watching this is. It's kind of like the difference between, so this film. Okay, let's compare it with something that we both think is really cool.
Okay.
My number one favorite film of all time is this film, Perfect Blue.
Sure.
Yeah. You could argue that Perfect Blue does the same thing. Where so I'm just saying this I don't actually believe this, but I'm just saying for argument's sake, right? You can argue they do the same thing because they use surrealism to lie to you, because that's not what's really happening. Well, that argument feels wrong, right?
Pretty different case.
Yeah, it's a very different case, right? Because in that case, it's all about showing you how they're exploring the themes, and they're using surrealism and your confusion of, wait, what is real, what is not. That in itself is what makes the film interesting, and the way that they subvert your expectations of what is really happening. In that film, I never feel like I'm being lied to. In this film, I feel like the purpose of why they show the devil crying, why they show him as a certain character, why they make characters appear to be those who are not, is not for the same sake of, again, it's something that's really hard to describe. It's not for the same sake of exploring your themes. I'm tripping up on my words, but does this make sense, what I'm trying to say?
To a degree.
Like, it has to do with the core fundamental of how you're telling your story to your audience. And it's a difference between... Yeah, manipulation is all I know how to... It's the only term I know how to put it, because it's manipulating people to think a certain thing that is wrong. Maybe that's the core of it. It's narrative that changes its story to deliberately try to get you to think different things about its story. And with something like Perfect Blue, where I'm just using that as an example because it's like literally right here, and it's what I consider as my number one. It's not trying to get you to believe different things about the story. It's just telling you things and then telling you more and telling you more and telling you more, and trusting in your intelligence to sort of figure out that, oh wait, maybe what you maybe thought before wasn't true, but it's not ever outright lying to you. And if it is lying to you, it's with the respect that you understand that that's not really what's going on. In this film, yeah, maybe that's it. This film tries to make you believe that its lies are true. In something like Perfect Blue, it lies to you, but does it in a way that almost sets you up to understand that it's lying to you. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I fundamentally disagree with, just because my experience with the film is so strong, and I just don't think of it like that. But I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, it just comes down to what you enjoy, how you enjoy watching films, really. Because in order to watch this film, you have to be a type of person who is okay with being lied to in that way, where the priority is figuring out the puzzle and being okay that they just are outright lying to you to put you off the wrong track of what the puzzle really is. And the reason that's okay is because it makes the film more enjoyable, because it makes it more challenging to understand what's going on. And the purpose of the whole film is to try to figure out what's going on. So anything they can do to, misdirect you successfully makes it more enjoyable. And throw in the ways of you can build sympathy with your characters, and then this way of manipulation really just becomes confirmed. Yeah. That's a really fucking cynical way of putting it, but I mean, that's kind of what this feels like to me.
I want to meet someone else who thinks the same way as you. Just to hear the way, I don't know, I want to hear put a different, because
You know who's someone who does think the same way?
Who?
Michael Haneke.
Well, yeah.
We should watch some,
yeah.
so maybe watch some documentaries by him, because he explains it very simply. Or I'm sort of beating around the bush, because
well, it's not just that. It just feels like
it
just feels like the majority of film viewers just don't even think about that.
Well,
it just
most
seems
people
like,
don't care.
Well, even like, yeah, I guess you have to be someone who's a creator to really think about it.
Yeah.
Like maybe even critics. I just don't think this is something that's in the consciousness. And I mean, I think that what you're bringing up is very interesting, but
I guess
I just want to know how relevant this type of issue is.
Well, just most people don't care about being lied to.
I just feel like the way cinematic history has evolved, it's gotten to a point where, like, yeah, I guess just most people, I don't know, it just doesn't. I mean, I'm glad that you're super fine-tuned to this, because that makes, you know, the stuff you create very, very you and very unique. But I just don't know how much of this exists in just the film viewing consciousness at any level.
Well, I mean, I guess we can just talk about what does it matter that we get out of film, right?
Yeah.
And if we enjoy it, I guess if we enjoy it, that sort of validates that it's okay. Yeah.
Right. I guess, yeah,
So,
at the end of the day,
like, if you don't care about this, that's okay. I guess it's just, in my experience, because I'm someone who am a creative person who thinks about this a lot. It becomes, because I'm thinking in the perspective of, like, why are the filmmakers making these choices narratively, and thinking about, you know, how much they trust their audience to, I don't know.
So
a lot of it just
I want to just do a thought experiment.
Sure.
You have a horror film that's a slasher film. There's a killer that's on the loose. The main character, we follow the main characters for around, like, let's say the first 15 minutes of the film, and then we receive the knowledge that there is this masked killer. Would you consider this to be manipulative? I mean, it's definitely manipulative, objectively, but will it bug you, like, if the protagonist is, like, looking aimlessly, wanders off the camera, and then it's revealed that the killer is right behind her? Like, that type of scene. You know, we've all seen that in, like, horror movies, where, like, it shows that the villain is looming in the background after the protagonist kind of walks off. It's like they're kind of blocking them.
Well, in that case, that's something, I mean, that has a name, it's dramatic irony, where that's basically kind of what I'm talking about, where you find out something that the characters don't know
Right,
about.
exactly.
Yeah, so it's them showing something that the characters don't know. Yeah. And it's a narrative device to make things exciting, because the audiences have information that the characters don't.
Right, but do you still think that's immoral?
Well, specifically...
Or, like, there's a shot, let's say there's a shot of a house, and you can see the entire house with the window. The camera stays there, the character walks off, and then you suddenly see, like, the villain character peep out of the window, because the camera stays there, but the main character leaves. You know, like, that type of scene. Like, I feel like this is just so ingrained in just filmmaking that, for me, it's not that different when, like, for example, you see the lady in white, like, on top of the hill, or, like, in the background, after they throw the demon or the Japanese man off. Like, it...
Okay, here's a way to make the a little bit more complicated to kind of tell what I'm talking about. So, it's that scene.
Yeah.
You as an audience member are trying to figure out who the killer is.
Yes.
And based on the story, there are three characters who it could be.
Yes.
And we have that scene where they're looking around, they leave, and then someone pops out.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say it could be either the Asian man, and this is just, I'm just pulling this out.
Japanese man?
The Japanese man, or the woman.
Uh-huh.
Let's say the Japanese man pops out. They are implying that the Japanese man is the killer, right?
Uh-huh.
That's what they're telling you.
Yes.
Right. So that is them telling the audience, hey, we are telling you, we are hinting at you, we are trusting you as the audience to understand that, and they can do that however they want to.
Mm-hmm.
They're communicating to you, Japanese man is the killer.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Then it turns out in this film, what it does, it convinces you that Japanese man is the killer. And then it tries to convince you that the woman is the killer.
Mm.
And then it tries to convince, and then it actually reveals, oh, it really was the Japanese man. So think of a much simpler example. This symbol gets really complicated. Think of an example where instead of Japanese or woman, let's say it's red man and blue man.
Mm-hmm.
Blue man is actually the killer.
Mm-hmm.
But they show you a scene where the protagonist looks around, leaves, and then red man looks really creepy.
Uh-huh.
That's them lying to you. And that's what bothers me. Because that's a level of manipulation that is for the sake of putting you off the wrong trail. And for that purpose only, to make it more exciting. So it's for the purpose of like misdirecting you. It's not for the purpose of exploring its themes. It's not for the purpose of making you think about humanity or about like the core of what this thing is, which is exciting, or like about like grief, like Hereditary does, or like anything else in any other movie that it explores. That, I mean, with Perfect Blue, it's with, you know, celebrity culture and womanhood and self. And no, they're just doing that to make you not figure out who'd done it. That's what bothers me.
But I guess when I watched it, I did find meaning in it. No, I found meaning in it. The Japanese man
you find meaning in it. Yeah, you find meaning in it because you don't really understand it, and you're still figuring out, and you connect with its themes in that way still.
Well, if the Japanese man is crying, let's say the Japanese man crying scene, you know, it's implied that he's like suddenly a nice man, right? I think it solidifies the movie's theme of like just how the devil works, and just like, you know what I said, the Hereditary didn't scare me because it felt like the cultish religious stuff and the family stuff, they were kind of at odds and ends with each other. But with this one, I feel like all the emotional beats, again, because I was invested right from the beginning, maybe, it wasn't just, it didn't feel like me trying to find meaning. It felt like at that moment showing the Japanese man, I mean, you can, of course, part of it is to you go off the wrong trail, but it did contribute to the theme in that you see that behind this dude who we thought was evil, yes, and the characters thought was evil the entire time, we get the knowledge that he is actually just really vulnerable. We see him at this super vulnerable state where he like reaches for his blanket.
So in your opinion, why are they even telling you this information? Why are they showing this to you in the narrative? Just
to see how crazy, just to imbue more fear.
In the audience? So the point is to make the audience scared then.
But in a way that does explore its themes of like religion and the devil and possession and ghosts.
So it's a character piece on the devil then. So okay, so it's like enhancing, it's depthening the character of the devil then. Okay, I can buy into that, I guess.
Yeah. See, one of the reasons I can't argue with you is because after this viewing, I actually got more confused.
Oh.
So like I don't have a specific interpretation of the movie.
Yeah.
So depending on which of like the 3 or 4 interpretations I have, yes, one of them, definitely the Japanese man crying, is totally manipulative. but I want to pretend that there's a genuine reason for that. And one of my interpretations actually is that the white woman, like, I don't know, yeah, this time watching it, because the white woman throws the Japanese man onto the car of the other people, of the good guys, and I'm just like, why would she do that? So for me, for the longest time, and the ending doesn't work in this way, but I thought that the white woman and the Japanese man were in cahoots.
Yeah, it kind of implies that at a time.
Yeah, but then then the ending of the shaman. I was actually looking for a moment where, like, oh, is there a moment where the woman in white, maybe possesses the shaman? But there was no moment like that. So see, because maybe it is me trying to give the director too much credit, but by trying to make sense of every scene, what I've reached is a paradox where, like, no matter which two I think are in cahoots, there's always one scene that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, and maybe that's because I've heard somewhere on Reddit, and if this is actually the case, I actually would not like this film as much. Mm-hmm. But someone on Reddit said that the director actually had a definitive ending, but he decided to mess it up on purpose. Which I think is just extremely sloppy. Like, he changed the ending just to make it more confusing. Which I think for a film that is of this kind, an ending like that is extremely sloppy and unforgivable.
You know what I'm realizing? How he might have written this movie.
How?
Right. Devil is the real antagonist.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. Wouldn't it be interesting if it was the woman instead? Let's write some more when the woman actually done it and justify reasons for that. Oh wait, you know what we could do? Let's make it so that they actually are working together. It could be that.
It could be that.
But see, and that's just them being really fucking clever.
I don't want to think it's like that because the twist worked on me in a level where I think it does support the themes of, like, in real life, like, you know, people who do believe in religion or maybe even the occult, they try to find the devil in people. And there is that speculation. There is that level of just a paranoia. And for me, like, when these twists are revealed, that's the way I experienced it. Where, like, when it went back to the Japanese man, I didn't think... I mean, obviously, part of me knew it was like, oh, it goes back. But because it was through the perspective of the young deacon, and it tests how his faith... Their entire conversation, I think, is so well constructed, where it's about his faith or his lack of faith. And so there's another interpretation where this whole thing is actually occult, and that the devil at the end is actually just what is projected because of the deacon's fear. And see, maybe this sounds totally ludicrous to you because, you know... Because,
it actually makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it does make sense. But for me, the fact that I seek out and really think about this is just, I guess, how effective the film is laid its effect on me. And so, yeah, after this video, I kind of just want to really try to piece this plot together and find one interpretation that really works. And I want to have enough faith to think that the film actually has one that works.
Here's an interesting thought experiment. Imagine that we cut all the stuff in the middle of trying to figure out who did it.
Yeah.
And this will be a completely different movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
But instead, they focus on exactly those themes you said.
Yeah.
Themes of exploring the devil, finding the evil in people, finding, like, stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they just straight out tell you the story about the man who pretends to be a shaman, who works with a demon and swindles people, and how that works, and the story of how a town gets fucked over by that.
Mm-hmm.
That immediately becomes a very boring story because you took out all of the puzzle it took to get there, which was all of the misdirection of trying to figure out what was really going on. So if you take out all of that misdirection, what are you really left with? Like, and maybe another way to put it, who's another director who's known for his twists?
Shyamalan?
So Shyamalan, his twists are sometimes bad, right? Those are just because, usually this is just because they're not very good films. But where they work, the moment of the twist, you have a realization, and with that realization comes like a strengthening of the themes, right? And that's like, is it okay if I spoil The Sixth Sense?
Sure.
Like with The Sixth Sense, oh, he's been a ghost all along.
Mm-hmm.
That strengthens the theme of grief, and it reinterprets how you interpret the film, and how you interpret, how he's dealing with grief, and you learn new things about it. Even though they kind of lie to you to hide the fact that he is a ghost, but show clues.
Some of the lies I actually have big problems with.
Yeah, and that even there, it's like, why are you doing that? You're just keeping it so you can like blow the water and make us excited with the twist, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a similar thing here, where like if you took away all of the manipulation and the goal of them being able to basically give you 3 different twists, right? Are you left with the themes? Do the twists enhance the themes? Like, what is the end goal? Is the end goal the twist, or is the end goal, like, if the end goal is the twist, maybe that's okay. Like, I imagine it's just a cultural thing, and that's why this is such a popular thing in Korean culture.
I don't think the end goal is the twist. I think for me, and this actually goes back to The Handmaiden.
Yeah, it does.
The reason, I just realized the reason The Handmaiden works for me is because the way they do their reveals and their twists, it's all about like, of course, you can say that the director lies because it wants to keep the audience on their toes about what the characters are lying about. And I think the main theme and the fun of that movie is about who the characters really are. Mm-hmm. And the way the twist worked for you is that even by the end, you still weren't sure who the characters were. But for me, there was a clear moment in The Handmaiden where immediately I can see that this is the moment where all of they're at their most vulnerable, and that you finally understand what all the characters are doing. And because the characters they literally come in like, trying to con each other. So like the theme of like conning the audience kind of fits with the way the people con each other. And this is me explaining it, but what it comes down to is like when I watch it, I just don't get bothered by it, and it totally makes sense. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that any kind of movie can pull off a Handmaiden twist, but I do think it is the fact that the film is about the conning and how they're good at it, that justify all its twists.
Yeah, this film is about conning too, come to think of it.
Yeah. It's a similar thing. Yeah, because it's about finding who the devil is, or even if the devil exists, or like the rift between like,
is it really the mushrooms?
Is right? Really, well, okay, yeah. We knew that it wasn't the mushrooms.
That's a meta thing where like,
yeah, because it looks like a zombie outbreak at first.
Yeah, it kind of like it makes it look like, oh, is it the science?
Right.
Is it the science, or is it the crazy religious stuff?
Right. Yeah. But see, at the same time, you're like, it surprised me that at the end it was actually like more of the Christian devil, and I think a lot of it is about whether the occult is real in the universe of this movie, or whether Christianity is real. And this is like, because again, Andrew from Truly Daebak is Catholic, and so this film really got to him because there are things that he literally believed in, and the way the movie explores its themes via the twist made it more disturbing for him. He says the single scariest image is actually the devil using his camera at the end because of what it took to get there, and that reveal becomes so horrifying,
right,
to him. And I feel that to a lesser level because I don't quite have the same beliefs as him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can totally see that.
Yeah. But again, see,
I just feel uncomfortable that I don't.
Right,
I
like,
just don't think it's moral.
Like, see, this is just the way we. Yeah, this is just the way we watch movies. Yeah. And yeah, again, keep doing it. I'd be down to watch more Korean films with you.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like every time we have this conversation about
here's the thing,
it's about
though.
the same thing.
Yeah, because I'm still not used to this perspective. I feel like maybe subconsciously, like I know I tell you I don't want to beat down this idea. Maybe
Yeah.
there's subconsciously, like always when we discuss this, there's subconsciously a part of me that's like, no, Mark, you're wrong. Like there's this back of my brain that's
Right.
like, Mark, I wanted to make you see the light.
Yeah.
But I feel like if we really want to explore more Korean cinema, it will get to a point where like, there it is again.
All right. Let's get to this.
There it is again.
There it is.
Yep, and I think it will become a point where maybe both of us can become just to totally accept each other's viewpoints and be like, "Yup, this is."
Maybe we can find a film where what would be amazing is we suddenly have
reverse.
the reverse opinion.
Oh, man.
I don't think that happened because I'm such a bitch on this stance.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that'd be interesting if like I can find something where I'm not annoyed by it, but yet it's still there. I think that's more likely to happen. Which, you know, come to think about it, there's probably already those that exist, but like I have to, because it doesn't annoy me, it's almost like I'm not aware of it, you know.
Right.
Or like so I was trying to do with the Perfect Blue example, with like trying to make an argument, like to compare the two, but like it just sounds wrong to say that like Perfect Blue is lying to you, right? Because it's, I mean,
but at the same time, Perfect Blue does completely follow its protagonist, and we experience the emotions that because she's as confused as us. That's why I thought the Perfect Blue example didn't really work because there were no clear moments where like the main character walks off. And okay, no, you do see the stalker dude.
Oh yeah, you sort of have a narrative with the stalker dude sometimes. Like you see the stalker going away to his computer, and that's like them kind of misdirecting you in a way. I guess it is kind of the same thing, come to think of it. And
that's exactly the type of thing I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
We're like,
but in that case, there's still like no. The way that scene works is the hacker dude's going away, and then all the pictures on the wall talk.
Right.
Like, it's not like, oh, we're trying to trick you. It's, we're showing you something that's a little surreal so that you sort of understand that there's some sort of disconnect from reality in that anyway. In the way that it's presented to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess to an extent. See, this is not how I feel about Perfect Blue, because Perfect Blue is like 6 or 7 on my all-time.
Yeah.
But as a thought experiment, what if someone argues that the entire point of Perfect Blue is to make you think whodunit? All the point of its surrealism.
Well, that actually makes it interesting, because you know what it is?
What?
It's a thriller.
It is a thriller.
It's a thriller that does not function the same way that this does. Because it is actually about whodunit. Because there are some murders in that you don't know who it is.
Right, and arguably, at the end, you still don't know who it is. I think it's...
No, it tells you.
It's pretty clear.
I mean, it's like the first time you end it,
mm-hmm.
there's so much overload of information, kind of similar to this film. There's kind of an overload of information where, I mean, it's kind of hard to piece it together, but it does. I've seen it like 3 times.
Yeah.
Even
down to the minutia?
I know what happens.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, it's fucking complicated because like
I'm sure.
they do a similar thing where they sometimes imply that like a certain different character has done something, but it actually, you know what I was saying earlier that maybe there's an example that doesn't bother me. This comes close to it.
Yeah, the more we talk about it, the more it seems that way.
Yeah, because like, okay. I want to talk about specific examples, but I don't really want to spoil things in that movie. We
can do a Perfect Blue, because I think the rest of this conversation is all going to be narrative. I don't think we're going to talk about anything else about this movie.
Okay.
So I think it's fine to just spoil Perfect Blue.
Okay, so we're going to spoil Perfect Blue.
Yes.
I'll try not to spoil too much in case, but okay. Go see Perfect Blue. Spoilers.
It's 80. It's like 77 minutes.
It's the best animated film you ever see, in my opinion. I don't know. It's my favorite. It's my favorite.
Probably my 3rd favorite, which is still very good. I love animated films.
I love it to death. Okay. Okay. So when you know how she finds the bloody clothes in her cabinet?
Yes.
That's implying that she done it. She even has memories doing it. Or like they show her doing it, right? But that's sort of revealed to be more metaphorical. And like what actually happened is like they were planted there so that she would think that.
Well, yeah.
So the main difference there is that they are sort of tricking you to believe that she done it. Mm-hmm. But it's actually not for the sake of tricking the audience.
Right.
It's actually done to trick Mima herself. So there it doesn't bother me because like it's not only tricking the audience, it's tricking Mima and tricking the audience as sort of like as well. And it's because the Mima's experience and the audience experiences is so aligned.
Yeah.
Then you can trick the audience because you justify any sort of trick that when someone lies to the main character, which I mean, people lie all the time. That's perfectly normal to have that in your narrative, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess there it doesn't bother me at all. Which sounds like I sound hearing that come out of my mouth, right? It sounds completely arbitrary. But it's the difference between lying as in the narrative and lying to you, like the audience, for the sake of lying to the audience, right? Where it's, I don't know. Maybe I can think of a better way to explain it.
Oh man.
Later.
Okay, there are two films I'm thinking of that will either make you like, but at this point I feel like you will hate them. One of them is Psycho.
Okay.
And the other one's Gone Girl. I think there's a chance you'll like Gone Girl a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure you'll hate Psycho at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the way Psycho works is exactly that.
I have a feeling that, you know what, it might be something else that is bothering me, and that this is the only way I know how to describe it.
I think, I feel like the clothes example
I feel like there's something here yet that we're not finding. I
think it's just because Perfect Blue is such a crazy experience. Maybe because the experience is so pure.
Yeah.
And I think with a lot of film is like that.
Like, yeah, maybe
I'm just speculating, obviously.
I'm totally with you with that speculation. Because, like it's also in a style that is more attuned to my own preference, which is very different from anything that we're talking about right now, right? Because everyone's going to have their own preference, which is completely independent of what we're talking about.
Someone can actually pick out a plot hole, like, okay, how did the person know that Mima was going insane, so that when she actually sees the clothes, there's an implication there that, like, they know that Mima thinks she did it. They know that Mima has had visions of herself doing it.
Well, you can justify that. Again, I mean, that's me speaking of more understanding of the film. Like, I have a way of justifying that. But, I mean, you can find plot holes in anything.
Right, exactly. There you go. There you go.
Plot holes in anything.
See, for me, like, any manipulation here, if it doesn't already make me feel like it impacts the theme, it makes me want to believe that it impacts the theme, and it makes me want to find a solution. And again, I haven't really cracked the code yet for this film. But maybe, just at the end of the day, the experience is what matters. Which we keep on bringing back to, that
is what matters, the experience.
But yeah, I mean, no, I'm not trying to say that your opinion isn't valid.
I guess, the whole reason I guess I care about this so much is that, what makes a good experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's that? I mean, that's sort of like what creatives, creatives like myself are looking for. What's that sort of magic spark that is what makes a good experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's going to be different for everyone just because everyone's a different person and different for different cultures, right?
Yeah.
So it seems like to me, from what I've seen, from the very little I've seen of Korean cinema so far, is something they really enjoy in their experience.
Yes.
Is this type of narrative device that, as from my own preference, just makes me feel uneasy. And all of this is just trying to explain that. But, like, get back to the experience part, like, they have fun figuring out the puzzle. Therefore, it's completely irrelevant whether or not the narrative is manipulating them.
All I can think of now is Psycho.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's like a classic film where that's not Korean. That totally does it. And it's like, Hail is one of the greatest films of all time. And I want to know why. Because I have a theory that, there are more people who care about this. Like you. But I don't know. Yeah. So, yeah. I almost don't want to watch Psycho with you anymore because I know you'll hate it. Just don't watch Psycho ever.
I mean,
or maybe watch it alone and then we'll talk about
it's
it.
Psycho. It's a classic. I'm not a Hitchcock guy.
Yeah. No, this movie flat out does that. The entire game is what the audience thinks they know. And then the ending just totally blows it away. And you realize Hitchcock is flat out lying to you.
Okay. You know what else is more ironic about this?
What?
This is exactly what I do when I host a Mafia game. It's exactly
that. So Internet Mafia.
So yeah. Internet Mafia.
Discord Mafia.
I mean, even today, I hosted a very small Mafia game where the whole point of Mafia is kind of the game of figuring out who done it.
Right.
And you know what? I was actually thinking about Mafia a lot through this movie.
Really?
I mean, part of it is just like...
that's your day.
That was my whole day.
Uh-huh.
But you know, if you think of it like why we enjoy a game like that, it's because of the fun of figuring out what the truth is and the game of getting there.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do that, and when you do that in a story, in a narrative,
it matters what you care about.
It matters what you care about and why you're watching it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I care about in film is, I mean, obviously to have experience, and the kind of experience I want to have is going to be different based on like how I feel, blah blah blah, and but like fundamentally, I usually, I mean, a lot of it is also tied to like what kinds of narratives I want to create, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that's it. I feel like, yeah, I don't know. The point of this conversation. Wait, I just lost my train of thought. Great. Yeah.
Oh yeah. We'll get to. I guess I might not have ever finished my Mafia thought. Is that, you know, something I'll do as sort of like a fun thing is where, you know, at the beginning of a day phase, I have information of, like, everyone has sent their 9 actions to me. I sort of do the math of, not the math of, like, how they combine together, which nobody knows. Everyone knows, like, the separate things, but once I receive all that information, I know the results. Then I can play a game with them with how I review that information. And that becomes a fun thing that, like, I sort of get to, like, cue it. So, like, I'll say something like, nothing happened, but they discovered that there was a dead body, like something like that, right? Like, well, that's a dumb example, but
you know what it is. Unless you want to finish your point, if you still
that was basically what
really
I was
okay.
saying, yeah.
When you go in a Mafia game, I feel like everyone's in on it.
Yeah,
everyone's super in on it.
Yeah,
and with the films that really work, like with The Handmaiden, I immediately grew to like at least one of the characters. I immediately attached some sort of feeling to the main trio of characters. You know, there's the handmaiden girl, there's the girl lady she serves, and there's the man. I immediately learned...
This is Handmaiden, by the way.
Oh, shoot, yeah, spoiler.
Okay, yeah, you just started showing about the Handmaiden. I realized, wait, this is not the video we're making.
Oh, no.
That's fine.
I guess at this point, yeah, just throw it all in. Throwing the towel. But, yeah, so at first, I hate the guy. And I like the handmaiden girl, but I don't know how to feel about the lady she's serving. And I think it is because the first act of the story is so well told that when the twist comes, like, I'm in it. And it's similar with this film and Psycho. I guess if I'm into the experience, the director can do anything. And I guess... it would just work.
I just had a realization.
Yeah. What about Mulholland Drive? That's what my realization. You go yours. Yeah. Because that's totally manipulation. The only reason David Lynch... Yeah, because you're not a big fan of it.
Okay. Here's the thing. I think it's more interesting in narratives where you empower your audience to have their own opinions about the film. And to allow them to come to their own conclusions. When you manipulate a viewer, you basically hijack that process. And I think a lot of people kind of want to be hijacked.
Most people do.
I mean, a lot of people do.
No, well.
Well, I mean, it's a tricky thing because like, I think you can have a more successful story if you can make something that compels people to become invested in it. Like it's a question of how do you get people invested, right? One is to make people wonder what's going on, right? That's sort of like that's the thing where like I feel like a lot of films have done this. Yeah, like that's basically like how you write narrative 101. Get people wondering and like what's going to happen next, what's really going on. But instead, if you can just give all the information and like give difficult moral situations or like just have it be like compare it with like freaking Dom Hertzfeldt. He never lies to you. He always gives you all the information. What makes Don Hertzfeldt an interesting experience is because the setup is very odd. The humor is also odd, but also like it's like, oh, there is a clone in a museum, and the whole thing is a metaphor for it's weird about human relationships.
The way Don Hertzfeldt makes movies though is so it doesn't allow for that type of lying. Like, there's no chance because he's either doing, like, these big sci-fi things, or he's doing the history of the world, or with the strangest case, which is It's Such a Beautiful Day, it's a very personal, extremely personal way of storytelling.
Right.
Where, like, we see what the person is seeing, basically.
Yeah. Oh, wait, another interesting example. King of Manipulation. Freaking...
Yorgos?
No, Kaufman.
Is Kaufman the king of manipulation?
So, not really a king of manipulation, but king of, like...
The Road. the most random joke. And that was... We've been so serious. I just had to say that. That's a movie by Wim Wenders.
Where have we come to?
No, okay. Can I, before you go on, see, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I feel like I'm going to forget this.
Okay, sure.
You know how, because your point began with, you're saying what you prefer in film. And you're saying that a lot of people want to be hijacked. In my opinion, it's like different flavors of ice cream. It's like I think it just shows.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's good.
And there's a flavor you don't like. Maybe. Because, see, because when you said, like, the audience likes to be hijacked, I'm thinking, like, what if there's a movie that's just so straightforward and dumb, like your Transformers or Bad Boys 2 or Crank, and, you know, it's like, that's, like, the most basic level. And then you have the level where maybe, like, the director manipulates the audience, which to you is, like, is very immoral. And then you have the level where everything fits with the theme and everything is justified. And to me, these are just all the possibilities of cinema.
Right.
And that if there are definitely it's not like every film. There are definitely films where I will nitpick more than others, but it's just a reflection of my experience with it.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that, where there are different... there's no wrong way to make a narrative. Like, if you're only doing film wrong if you're, like, actually being amoral in your production and like actually
Cannibal
killing,
Holocaust.
Like well, you also then have like you even have like performance art, which even questions that, right? But that's a whole other topic, right?
Whoa.
But like what's moral in art, right? But which is also something that's really interesting.
Well, we're not really dealing with morality.
But this isn't about morality.
In the killing animals sense.
But there's no experience that doesn't have a right to be said.
Right.
Yeah, I guess what we're talking about is, you know, specifically has to do with treating your audience with respect. And I think this does not treat your audience with respect. And is that okay? Is that irrelevant? That's, I guess...
I think it's leading the audience on, yes. But not every film needs to treat the audience with respect the same way you do. It's like a deceptive cadence in a piece of music. Sometimes the deceptive cadence is used to bring up a bigger climax. Other times, just the composer fucking with the audience. And for me, being like a very tuned, a tuned music listener, I'm trying to connect with our audience because I know a lot of people, they aren't classically trained, so they don't know a lot about just listening to. So there are moments in music where, the composer would like trick the audience with a certain chord that is unresolved. And I think this is a similar thing.
Yeah, in music though, those are often the most exciting moments. And I think that's actually just because music kind of works differently than the experience of no. The experience of listening to music is a little different than a narrative.
Okay.
A narrative where like they definitely have similar things. This video is about a Korean film.
Yeah.
What all have we talked
about? I love
about?
it. No, we need to keep on going. Well, yeah, but when I don't know, the music kind of does have a narrative, especially like for someone who's a sonata form crazed person. Oh my god. Oh, is this still recording? Yes, it is.
Oh, that's a notification on my phone, I guess.
Yeah, like every time I listen to a new piece in sonata form, every time they delay a coda or do something crazy with the development section, I don't know, in a way it is like tricking me.
I mean, I've made it a thing to study how different types of forms defy your expectations. And I really enjoy that when I write music, right? As Mr. Composer Man. But still, in this context of this film, where they're doing the same thing narratively, it feels just amoral for some reason. Because it feels like doing that trick is... Because, I guess it's just because... Maybe it just comes down to, I prefer experiences that don't do that.
Right.
That allow you... That are not about the pursuit of misinformation.
Yeah, I think the word that really gets to me, and maybe that's why the subconscious part of me wants to stop, it's because the morality that you're talking about, I think it's more personal than like an objective sort of morality.
Yeah, I don't really mean to suggest that like it's an objective thing, like you should never do this. When I say it's amoral, I just think it's like you're not treating your audience with respect, and I don't think that's the best thing ever. Right. But you still have a right to do that. I just don't agree with you.
There you go.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mean to say that it's like you should be put in artist jail.
Right.
Or like you shouldn't exist, or like
this
movie shouldn't exist.
Hey, but this movie exists in your artist jail. Along with The Handmaiden.
I guess so.
Yeah, but that's just us.
I mean, the reason I'm saying all this nonsense is because my experience that they want me to have an experience, but because of whatever reason, my experience is not the intended where I'm invested. Yeah. And I'm not invested. And the reason I'm not invested is, I think, because of these reasons. Yeah. So in my own little personal world, yes, they do belong in artist jail.
For me,
but yeah,
not for me, but like what is interesting is, what if you were totally on board with all the characters? The Handmaiden, you were on board at the beginning, right? And then it took until that point.
I think so.
But the problem is, with The Handmaiden, it's a flat out like, fuck you, in your opinion. But with this film, it's a little less severe. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll never find out the answer to this, but what if you were more invested in the characters and you really felt sorry and you felt the tragedy? Maybe there's a possibility.
Well, I tend to view films as, what are they doing narratively and why are they doing that? As sort of like a forefront burner kind of thing. Yeah. Unless if I'm truly immersed. That doesn't happen, but that is very rarely the case.
I guess, but the thing is, I guess for me, tricking the audience is just not a problem. I guess that's the
thing. It's not really a problem for me either, because it's something I do as a creator.
Right.
But when done in this way, it just feels wrong, and I'm still figuring out why.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like...
So, I guess at the end of the day, this is just us figuring out each other's taste and our own taste. And
yeah, maybe this is coming down to figuring out taste.
yeah.
It's still, though, I do feel like there is a fundamental thing about storytelling.
Right.
That
there's definitely something in common.
Yeah, it speaks to not just like a preference between you and me,
Mm-hmm.
but speaks to a thing about to talk about something that maybe is subjective, something objective about storytelling, and something that is true. Not that it's right or wrong, but something that's true about the relationship between the art, like the narrative, and how that narrative is told to you.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's right or wrong, I mean, that's up for everyone to decide. But
right.
like, just what it is
Mm-hmm.
is the question.
Mm-hmm.
That, yeah, that's interesting.
Well, as I predicted, this talk is totally different from the one in the podcast.
What did you talk about in the podcast? I'm interested.
I don't want to spoil it for
no?
we can talk about that off camera.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's not a necessity to talk about it here.
Got doing the plug thing. I see.
Yeah, what kind?
Manipulating the audience to go
there
see
you go.
the
There
other.
you go. Yep.
Yeah, this is actually this is a reason why we don't do this, because we don't like, or I know I don't like. I think we sort of both don't really like doing this. We're like trying to manipulate people for the sake of going to see the other podcast. And I mean, also just because like.
Well, you know what else I don't like? A lot of facial hair. So please support our sponsor, the Dollar Shave Club.
Oh God.
I'm kidding. But no, see that. I mean, I do think there are different levels, and I think. Yeah. Well, what really makes this. Yeah, this situation different is like, first of all, they haven't uploaded their episode yet, and there was a deal to like go to each other's channels.
Yeah, it's like a support thing.
So for me,
it's not really manipulation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I was mostly poking fun.
Okay. Yeah. Exactly. You're drawing parallels. But do we want to go in on this for another hour? I think we're good for now. I think that's enough.
I think we covered it. This might be our longest video. I wonder how long we've been going for.
It feels pretty.
This felt like
lengthy.
a really lengthy talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Should we guess?
I'm thinking hour 20.
That's what I was gonna say too. Yeah, I guess gut feeling an hour 20.
Okay.
All right. Bye, guys.